What's going on, guys? It is a weird Monday and I'm hitting the garden and I'm hitting it hard today. So I thought I'd bring you along for some chores and maintenance, kind of a cleanup, a pre-season cleanup. I'm in the greenhouse right now. What I'm gonna start with, I just got back from the nursery. I have all of these aeroids that a friend sent me that I built these moss poles for, and some of them have done well, some of them haven't, but they're all now a bit too small for the pots that they're in. So I picked up some new pots, I picked up some new ingredients. We're gonna mix up a pretty good aeroid mix. I don't have everything that I need, and we're gonna see if we can improve all these houseplants. And I'm just gonna take you along with me, so let's hit the car. Got my moss, I've got my orchid bark, and I've also got Gary's top pot, which I'll talk about in a second. So here's an example of one of the ones that I have. This is a Philodendron Espiritu Sancti, which is looking pretty good. When I got it, it was maybe this big, just one leaf. Now it's a lot bigger. Obviously, some of these aren't looking as hot, but I have a couple nice ones and there's new growth coming out. I need to get it to a pot about this big. So what I'm gonna do is depot it, kind of shake the roots out. I'm gonna try to preserve as much of this aeroid mix that I created last time in this Gorilla cart, and then we'll see what amendments I add. The first thing going in is a bonsai mix, because it's pretty damn close to what an aeroid mix would be. It's got some larger particles, got some perlite, got some rocks, it's got some bark. So I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna add a little charcoal. Then I'm gonna throw in something kind of weird. Gary's top pot. I say weird because it's just uncommon. Most people don't make a mix like this. I'll read off the ingredients. Ready? Peat moss, pumice, perlite, sand, charcoal. That's it. No nutrients, no organic matter really. And the whole point of it is to act as a permanent soil mix, because organic matter, of course, would break down over time, which would mean that this matter would sink. It would just, you'd have to repot it pretty often. So I've never used it, but I've heard a ton about it. So this is gonna make up the bulk of my mix here, but I will be adding some biotone to increase the nutrition of the mix. The reason I'm not just adding purely Gary's top pot is because I think it's too fine a mix for something like an aeroid, which would want to be somewhat epiphytic, right? So it needs a lot of drainage because it normally wouldn't really even be growing in soil. So let's mix this up. Then we sprinkle in a good amount of biotone because I want these guys to grow in their new containers. And this is the texture of the mix that we're going for. I may actually want to add a little more charcoal because I still feel like it's slightly too fine. Now for the repot. So the only thing I ever do really when I'm repotting is I kind of hold the plant in place exactly where I want it to be, and then I fill around it because of course there's some root tissue going on here. There's some clumps that have been forming. I don't really want to disturb too much of that. So I'm just gonna hold it right about here and stuff in some soil. So I've got it in now, but I need to get the Espiritu Sancti plant just a bit closer to the moss pole. It's not really a hyper natural climber, not like maybe a pothos would be, but still, like even just look at the difference there. Just pulling it a little tighter helps quite a bit. I won't tie it super tight, but I'm hoping the new growth will start to attach. And this now goes in the bottom of the greenhouse. I like to give it a light soak, and then I'll pot another one up and I'll come back and soak it again just because this mixture wasn't very hydrated. So I'm doing the Philodendron micans right now, and I just snipped off this top because it was going way over my moss pole. And when I dug out the root system, it just wasn't looking very healthy. So I'm kind of afraid this entire vine might die off. So I'm gonna prop all of these and put them down here so that it'll just recolonize. Okay, here's a new lineup. We've got the Philodendron Espiritu Sancti. I'm very excited about this one. It should start to grow like crazy. I've got the Cebu Blue Pothos from the Philippines in a new pot, and it's honestly looking really nice. I love when you're going up a moss pole and you kind of see these daggers hanging down like that. I really like that. This is the Philodendron micans. I put in a cutting right there, there, and there. So we should have at least one of those take. It is in the greenhouse unprotected, so if this ever dries out, that might not work out too well for me. I've got the Philodendron Brazil right here, and now I want to address our overwintered peppers. So these are just a few peppers that we saved from last year. This is the Pequeño blend, which is honestly a fantastic one. If you ever had pepper drops at Trader Joe's, that is what they are. So I'm just coming through and doing some corrective pruning here. This is dead tissue right here. This is a new bud. So I'm gonna come in and make a cut there. And I come through and just prune up this entire plant just to kind of clean up some of the cutting lines that we made last season because we did it in kind of a hasty fashion. Similarly here, you can tell this one's kind of ready to go and I don't need it to be ready to go yet. So I'm gonna keep pruning it back just a touch and looking for some opportunities to take off some tissue that I just don't really need. Like this right here, for example. There's no node anywhere at all. So it's basically useless. So we're gonna take that off. And I also kind of want to open up the plant a little bit. Like this guy crossing out like this, I don't really like that. So I'm gonna take that out. I'm gonna probably remove some of this low growth here. Maybe bring this back a touch right there. And I'll probably remove down here completely because it's just too low growth. As you get into like the second and third years of a pepper's life, which is unusual, I know most people just plant new, you kind of have to take like a fruit tree pruning approach sometimes, which can be fun. If you have a pepper you really like, I find that overwintering is just a great way to deal with it. Now that we've got those done, I just want to check on my seedlings. I have a ton of lettuce, 30 different varieties that we've planted out here. And then we've just got some classic wintry stuff, some cauliflower, some choys, all the kind of brassicas over here. And we got a ton of flowers, mostly poppies, we got violas, we have lupine, we got some strawberries right here. In my hanging pot, I just repotted this. I've got some nice lettuce going on. And then over here in the greenhouse, we've brought the green stalk in and we're doing winter strawberries or sort of early strawberries. We found that if you put your everbearing or even June-bearing strawberries in a greenhouse, in a green stalk, you'll get them way earlier than summer. Like, look at that. That's gonna be coming pretty soon now. So this is an idea I stole from Jacques. I really like it. This will eventually go out in the front once the season starts to kick off. And I did a big cleanup of this side of the greenhouse. The coffee plant is gone. Rest in peace. I feel like I paid my dues growing the coffee. It started to struggle. It started to get hit with, I think it was mealybugs. And so I replaced it with this white princess right here, which I think is just a beautiful, beautiful plant. It's thriving to a degree that I've never personally had a plant like this thrive, so I love it. And the next thing I did is I brought my vanilla back to life. So this is the vanilla bean orchid. I put it on some long bamboo. This is probably a 5-foot long bamboo pole. I tied it all the way up, so my most profitable orchid is coming almost to the 5-foot mark, which I'm very excited about. I've kind of nestled it right here, right behind my white princess, because the sun comes in from this direction. So I want to shade out the base of this plant. Vanilla probably doesn't want to get blasted through a greenhouse by San Diego sun. So that's the current state of the greenhouse in winter. Most of what I did is cleaning up the top and bottom of this side, getting some of these plants reset. But I think I need a major aesthetic lift in here. I need to fill this side of the greenhouse out with a lot more tropicals and subtropicals, things that would have a hard time growing even in my climate out here. So I was gonna show you some more stuff out here, but I wanna hop on the computer and show you our planning app, because right now what I've been obsessed with is building a 2-scale replica of the back and front yard gardens, inclusive of the orchard, so you can see kind of exactly what's going on here at the homestead. And I just need it for planning out the garden this year if I'm going to keep track of all these different experiments and growing challenges that we're doing. So let's go to the computer. So here we are in the Epic Office, guys. You haven't probably seen this before if you're here on the Homesteading channel. Hold on. Yogurt break. I don't know what it is about these yogurts. These things are fire. Anyways, if you've seen this office before, you probably found my personal channel, Kevin Espiritu. If you haven't, welcome. But let's get into the planner. So I'm just going to show you how a simple plan would work. So we'll call this like my baby's first garden. Let's call it that. Baby's first garden. It's for the year 2025. We'll do it in Imperial. And we're just going to do a 20 by 20 square foot garden. And we're going to create the plan. So this gives us a really simple grid here, and you can zoom in if you want to. So we'll zoom in just a touch here. And then on the left-hand side, what I really love is you've got really almost unlimited plants, more plants than you could imagine. I mean, you could even type in like lemon and you actually can put in trees, and I can drag and drop a huge lemon tree right there. So what you want to do first is figure out what are the dimensions of the actual growing space that you have. So if you're going in a raised bed, that's fine. You can actually just go here to garden objects. So there's plants, garden objects, shapes, and text. So I'll go to garden object. And the cool part about the Epic Garden Planner, which we worked with Grow Veg to help create, is there's a lot of custom functionality. So if I type in birdies, I can go to raised beds metal, and I can choose, let's say, the birdies metal raised bed small, and I can drag and drop that directly on. And then if I right click and go to edit, I can choose a preset size. So let's say I want all my beds to be 4x3s here. I can do that, but if I really wanted to change it to like 2x2, I could do that. So it's based on the actual size of the bed that you buy. So if I was to put in our medium sized bed here, I could change this to a 4x4, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to just do 4x4 beds. I can Control C, Control V for copy. So here are my beds right here, right? And let's just say I want them each in about 2 feet from each side. I can do that. And if I really wanted to get particular, I could go 4 feet 0 inches, 15 feet 0 inches, boom, and you can snap it, right? And I just want to show you how you might actually plan out like your first very simple garden of your entire life. So let's go ahead and put in a pathway here. So we'll put in just something simple like a, I don't know, a brick path, maybe, or a gravel path. That's probably even easier. So I can pop it down like that and then just drag it across. And I can even extend it or copy it, I believe is probably the best way to do it. So I could do something like that. And then I could just snap this in to the width that I need it to be. So let's say we've got our gravel path right there. I'm going to copy and paste it, and I will rotate it. Oh, wow, look at that. You can even curve the path. That's kind of nice. Okay, so it looks a little bit janky, but it's fine. It's getting the job done right now. You can, of course, just customize this later. So it's a beginner's garden, and we have 4x4 beds right here. And we also have a pathway that's about 4 foot wide on each of the crossing sections, which leaves a little bit of gapping right here so that you could like step off the path and you have maybe some mulch in this area right here. So let's figure out what we actually want to plant. So let's go back to plants. And what I'll do is I want one bed that's just lettuce. So I've got the ability to put in different types of lettuce here. I can go ahead and click leaf lettuce, which I definitely want. And what you can do is drag it out and it'll give you its recommended spacing. So right here, it's doing 9 plants in 3 feet. And if I drag it out like this, I would get 81 plants. To me, that's a bit extreme as far as the spacing goes, but let's see what you can do here. You can come in and you can choose the variety that you want. And we have a ton of different varieties in here for you. So every single botanical interest variety at the very least would be in here, including other ones. It'll show you companions that you can plant with. There's 14 different companions that you might want to plant with. You can take some notes here. It'll also give you different spacing ideas based on the system that you are using. So in my case, the way I kind of like to do this is I'll say I want 1 row of lettuce that's going to be, let's see, I want 8 because I'm going to go 4 feet long every 6 inches. That would be about 8 per 4 feet. And then I'm going to copy that and space that out just a touch. Now it's up to you if you want to get really particular here. You can by naming each variety, but for the sake of simplicity, what I'll do here is just keep it very simple like this. And I don't think I need all of these labels since this whole bed is just lettuce. So I'll just drag that right there. My next one, I want to do, let's say some early, mid, late winter onions. We'll get some onions in the ground. We'll do multi-sown onions a la Charles Dowding, and we'll drag these out. And we'll go in a block on this because we've got 9 onions multi-sown over 4 feet. We could probably get a little bit more dense than that, but of course these are multi-sown onions, meaning there's a bunch of seeds in one hole. So there's an onion bed for us. And let's get a little fancier here. Let's do some companion planting. I'm going to put a nasturtium in the corner right here, and I'm going to copy that for the corner right here on my lettuce bed. And I'm actually going to drag my lettuce just a touch smaller here. And similarly right here, I'm going to do the same thing. This means that I'm going to get a little bit of a border going with my nasturtium. If I wanted to, I could even do that. But in this case, we're just going to do this. So there we go. And we'll drag our nasturtium there and our nasturtium there. I don't think you necessarily need these labels, but they can be helpful if you can't recognize the plants by eye. So you can create some pretty interesting, spacing and combination plants. And then if you're really confused on maybe what to plant, remember you can always go into edit and you can look at what to plant with a particular plant that you've put in there. So it's late winter. What else could I be doing? Well, let's do some beets. And we're not going to go multi-sown this time. So I want to do at least 2 rows of beets in this bed right here. So it's going to be, let's go with 10 plants, and we'll do another row right here. And then just out of curiosity, let's go in and take a look at some of our companions. I don't necessarily agree with all of these as companions, but I think some of these could be an okay idea. I actually think you could do something like beets and garlic, but it's a little bit early for that. So I'm just going to go with beets, and then I'm going to put some turnips in. So if you're a beginner gardener, you could use some of the suggestions that we offer, or you could just kind of go with what your heart tells you, you know? And I'm going to do a little alternative planting here because I think that just looks kind of nice. Some Brussels sprouts. So we'll throw 2 Brussels sprouts in this bed. Decent spacing on those. We can probably pull that off. We'll delete one of these, bring this up. We'll make this a brassica bed, so we'll do 2 broccoli as well. And we'll go down there and we'll pop. We could probably get away with 3, but I honestly think 2's fine. And then we could actually copy another nasturtium. Ooh, we don't want to do that. We could copy another nasturtium and bring it right about there for a border planting. So there we have a very simple garden. Now you might be saying, okay, well, cool. Like, how do I actually plan out when to plant this? Well, that's where you go to the plant list. So this is everything that we have planted. And honestly, this to me is probably the most helpful part because now I know my count of how many I need to start. I know when to start them. So let's take a look here. So indoors in my zone, I kind of missed the window for a lot of these, but that's fine because I can direct sow. So then sow plant outdoors would be these red bars. And then harvest, of course, is going to be the orangish red bar that you can see dragging along here. So let's take a look. It's January as I film this, and almost all of the things I selected, I should be able to start outdoors in my climate right about now. Now, Brussels sprouts is telling me I should have started those a while back. I can probably still pull it off in my area, so you can use these more as a guideline. It says I should have started them in October, harvest them in January. That would be ideal for Brussels in my climate, but I could probably still pull it off. So now I've got a planting list. You can actually export this if you want to and print it out. You could like put it in your garden shed or put it on your fridge or something like that. You can look at a summary, which simplifies it quite a bit. So this is like the default, there's the summary. And then you could look at your individual plantings and it tells you exactly how to plant and space them out and how long you should be able to grow them. Then the cool part, one of the things that we've kind of added is we have added this shop functionality that allows you to purchase whatever you've planned. I'm not saying like, hey, you got to go buy stuff from the planning app, but if it's your first time planning out a garden, well, then you know exactly how many beds you might need. You also, though, know how many seeds you might need. And this to me is kind of the more helpful thing. So if I've grown, a ton of lettuce, a ton of onions, a ton of turnips and beets, and I pop over to shopping, what I can actually do is, let's say I want to order the Touchstone Gold beet, which is a great, fantastic beet. It'll tell you how many to buy. So 33 seeds, right? That's how many I'm going to need. Well, it looks like I need 1 packet only. But if I was to go back here and just for craziness' sake, do something like, well, that's a little wild. Let's do something like that. And then come back, look, it's telling me I need 3 packets because I have way more beets planned than I actually have packets, right? So it calculates all that for you, which to me is actually really handy because we do a lot of sowing here at the homestead. And to know I need more than 1 packet and not have to go back to the nursery or whatever, I find that pretty helpful. You can also kind of customize, say, okay, cool, I want that. I want the Sylvia Brussels sprouts instead. I want the new red fireleaf lettuce, and maybe I want the cherry rose nasturtium. And then let's see, I want the white lady turnips. And then you can even choose the color and style of bed that you want. So these are the medium short beds. So I could say, you know what, I actually want the talls. I'll grab this here. Whatever, you get the picture. So I'm going to buy the 4-pack because it's cheaper, right? So we'll do that. And we only need one of the 4-pack. And so what you'll do is then you click add, right? And as you click add, it will create a cart that when you go over to the store, it has exactly what you wanted right there. Boom. Like pretty gnarly, right? I mean, it's pretty crazy that it actually can do it like that. So this is what I've been doing in my actual garden. So I'll bring up my front yard raised bed. You might recognize this from all of our videos. And this is kind of what's going on in the garden right now that I've planned out so far. We have some carrots in the round bed. We're doing a big lettuce experiment in this bed that's near my house. We've got our garlic in the 4x8 bed in the front yard, some onions going on. So I'm going through and I'm creating subsections of my garden. This is just the front yard. And I'm going to be extending this canvas out all the way over here for the orchard. This will go into the backyard for the backyard. And I'll have a perfect list of what I'm growing at any point in time. And here is the garden that I just showed you in the plan. So this is where the lettuce is gonna go that I mentioned. Those are the onions I talked about. That's the garlic. The carrot sitting underneath is burlap because that's a good way to get it to germ. But obviously I have a lot that I still need to add into the plan. And then I can even add structures like this rose arch, or I can add physical structures like a rain tank or a hose, or even perennials like artichokes, or even giant trees like the loquat. So pretty much everything can get put into the plan. So that is the plan for the year, is having a plan and working the plan, because it takes so much effort to track every single thing in our heads or on paper on all these different systems. Both Jacques and I have committed to using the planner. So if you don't see him using the planner, go to his channel and talk some trash to him, because he told me he would do it. And I'm taking him at his word. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this mixed chores in the greenhouse and planning video. More coming like this here on Epic Homesteading. Crow up in the air. They still remember me, you know? Last couple years, I've had quite the saga with those crows. They still remember me. They still love me. And that one in particular loves me. I will see you guys on the next one. Good luck in the garden and keep on growing.